be truly dangerous, one must not flaunt strength or make threats visible. These are the tools of the weak. The wise ruler understands that true power is found not in force, but in subtlety, in the ability to remain unseen while shaping the world around them. Machiavelli knew that strength lies in restraint, and danger is best wielded in silence. Here are 6 key principles that will guide you in becoming a force to be reckoned with, without ever revealing your true hand. This is a truth every ruler must understand. In the art of power, it is not the brute force of a visible weapon that ensures victory, but the quiet, calculated strength that remains hidden until the opportune moment. To appear weak, to be overlooked, is to possess an unparalleled advantage. One that fools your enemies into underestimating you, while leaving you in complete control. The art of being dangerous without showing it is about mastering the subtle game of perception and patience, understanding that power does not need to be displayed, only to be felt when it is most needed. A ruler must never make the mistake of revealing his true strength to the world. Power displayed too early is power wasted, for it alerts your adversaries to your potential and causes them to ready themselves against you. The clever ruler does not allow others to see his true nature. Instead, he wears a mask of weakness or indifference, fostering an illusion of harmlessness. This falsehood works to his advantage. For the less others fear him, the less prepared they are for his eventual strike. To appear weak is to create a vacuum of expectation, wherein your true actions will come as a shock. There's a profound difference between actual power and the perception of power. A king who raises a sword to show his strength only signals his desperation. For if he were truly strong, he would not need to brandish it. The wise ruler keeps his sword sheathed, letting his enemies assume that he is incapable of drawing it. He does not make threats, for threats are the language of the insecure. Instead, he lets the rumblings of power echo in silence, allowing fear to seep into the minds of his rivals without ever uttering a word. Those who threaten show their hands. Those who are truly dangerous hide theirs. By appearing harmless, one controls the pace of engagement. No one will prepare for a blow from an unseen hand, and in this unpreparedness, the real danger lies. This, however, is not a tactic born of passivity, but a calculated patience. The ruler who hides his strength is not idle. He observes, learns, and waits. He knows that every move must be timed perfectly, for an unprovoked strike is often wasted. The wise ruler bides his time, watching others as they grow comfortable, as they underestimate him. They will assume he is weak, foolish, or even irrelevant, and in their arrogance, they will become complacent. When the moment finally arrives, when a ruler's hand is forced, or when the time is right for action, his strike will come swiftly and decisively. He will unleash his power, not through brute force, but through a well-placed, devastating move. The enemy will be blindsided, and they will not have the time to react. It is the ultimate weapon, the power that comes when no one expects it, when the world believes the ruler incapable of any harm. That is when the true danger lies, in the moment of clarity, when the mask is removed and the ruler's strength is revealed. To be dangerous without showing it is to master the art of waiting and watching. It is to wield power not through outward displays, but through the calculated control of circumstances. The greatest ruler is the one who never reveals his full potential, who always keeps others guessing, always hiding the depth of his power until the very moment it is most needed. This is the secret to lasting influence and unassailable authority. To be dangerous, without anyone ever seeing it coming. In a world full of noise, those who learn the power of silence wield a weapon far more potent than any clamor of words. To remain silent is to command attention without uttering a single sound, to control the flow of conversation, and to shape the thought of others without lifting a finger. Silence is the armor of the wise ruler, the unseen force that leaves the enemy unprepared, their minds scrambling to decode what remains unspoken. It is in the silence, the space between words, where true power lies. The ruler who understands this knows that by speaking little, he can influence much. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is the presence of control, a deep and calculated force that only those with the courage to remain still can wield. When a man speaks, he risks revealing himself, his intention, his weaknesses, his desires. Every word carries the weight of his intentions, and once uttered, it cannot be taken back. In the art of power, the greatest mistake one can make is to speak too freely, for words once given to the world cannot be undone. The ruler who speaks too much is like a man who shows his cards too early, giving away his hand to the enemy before the game has truly begun. By speaking less, one reduces the risk of miscalculation and can control the narrative. The wise ruler understands that silence speaks louder than any declaration ever could. Silence is a tool that should be employed with precision. It is not mere quietness, but a purposeful, calculated absence of sound. A ruler who masters silence knows how to use it to create an air of mystery, to leave his enemies uncertain, unsure of what he will do next. In moments of tension, silence can be a weapon, for it can force others to fill the void with their own thoughts, leading them to reveal more than they intended. The great strategist knows that by withholding his own words, he compels others to speak, to give away their secrets, to expose their vulnerabilities. The less one says, the more one learns. A ruler who speaks sparingly also controls the pace of events. By withholding words, he holds the power to dictate when and how things are said, allowing him to stay a step ahead of those around him. In a world where everyone clamors for attention, the ruler who remains silent commands far more respect than one who shouts for it. The silence of the ruler is never mistaken for weakness, for it is filled with purpose. It is a silence that forces others to pause, to reconsider, to question what they might have missed. It is a silence that makes others wonder what is behind the quiet, what plans lie just beyond their reach. In the court of power, those who speak little but act decisively hold the true advantage. They do not waste their breath on the trivial or the unnecessary. Instead, they wait for the right moment to speak, to act, to make their presence felt. Their words, when they do choose to speak, are measured, weighted, and deliberate. They do not shout, for they do not need to. Their silence demands attention, and when they choose to break it, the world listens. To be silent is not to be passive. It is to hold the reins of power in one's hands, to control the flow of conversation and the direction of events. It is the art of making others question their own thoughts and actions, while never revealing your true intentions. The greatest weapon of the ruler is not in his ability to speak, but in his ability to remain silent when it matters most. Through silence, the ruler maintains a position of strength, and through silence, he ultimately wins the game. In the pursuit of power, one must understand the most critical truth. It is not the man who rushes forward into the light who triumphs, but the one who remains hidden in the shadows, allowing others to toil and make mistakes in plain sight. To be seen is to be vulnerable. To remain unseen is to hold all the power. In this world, those who seek the limelight are often the first to burn out, while those who dwell in obscurity can move with a freedom and authority that others cannot fathom. The wise ruler knows that the most dangerous position is not the one at the center of attention, but the one just beyond the reach of the spotlight, where his presence is felt, yet never fully revealed. Their profound strength in the act of being unnoticed. The ruler who keeps his movement small, who avoids the stage and the applause, is the one who can move freely, observing the weaknesses of others without exposing his own. He lets his adversaries raise their voices, push their agendas, and create chaos. While they expend their energy, he stands aside, watching and waiting, gathering information without lifting a finger. The art of being dangerous without showing it is the art of remaining silent while others act, of letting the world believe you are relevant while you secretly shape the course of events. The clever ruler understands that in the shadows, one can observe, manipulate, and control without ever becoming a target. Power is not about showing strength. It is about controlling the narrative without needing to claim authorship. The more visible one becomes, the more others take note. They learn your habits, your strengths, your weaknesses. They prepare themselves to counter you, to react to your every move. But the ruler who remains behind the veil of invisibility can act without warning. He can shift the balance of power without anyone understanding how it happened. When others are fixated on their own ambitions, they fail to see the ruler quietly pulling the strings. He becomes a force that directs the flow of actions, the one whose unseen hand guides the fate of all those who believe they are in control. Those who seek the spotlight, whether through words or deeds, are not truly powerful. They waste their energy seeking validation from the world around them. The ruler who understands the power of shadows, however, is the one who seeks influence without recognition. He lets others burn out under the weight of their own visibility, while he remains cold, detached, and ever watchful. The shadow ruler does not seek followers, for they are often blind to the truth. He does not need to command loyalty through displays of power or grand speeches. Instead, he controls the hearts and minds of those around him through subtler means, quietly manipulating those who believe they are acting of their own volition. The great rulers are never the loudest voices in the room. They are the ones who sit back, letting others take the lead, while silently guiding them in the direction they wish them to go. They become the puppet masters, unseen and unnoticed, shaping the events of the world without ever showing their hand. To be the shadow is to understand that power lies not in dominance, but in subtle influence. The wise ruler will never show himself in full. He knows that to be too visible is to risk being exposed, and the more visible one is, the less power they truly hold. It is the ruler who remains a mystery, who plays his cards with caution, who waits for the perfect moment to act. This is a man who will seize control, while the world remains oblivious to his true power. To be feared is to hold the most potent weapon in the arsenal of power. Fear is emotion that binds the will of others, the invisible chain that compels them to act in ways they might never have otherwise. A ruler who can instill fear does not need to demand respect. It is given willingly, and often without a word being spoken. The greatest power lies not in direct confrontation, but in the ability to influence the thoughts and actions of others by making them afraid of what might happen should they challenge you. This is not a fear born of cruelty, but of inevitable consequence, one that hangs over the enemy like a shadow, silent yet ever present. When one is feared, they need not waste time or energy on persuasion. The mere thought of disobedience becomes an unbearable risk, as the consequences of such actions are too great to bear. Fear is a tool that ensures compliance without the need for constant reminders. A wise ruler knows that this fear must not be overtly visible, for the display it is to reduce its potency. Instead, fear must be whispered, felt in the subtle undercurrents of decision-making. It should not come in the form of loud threats, but in the quiet certainty that disloyalty will not be tolerated. The wise ruler allows others to fear him without making it obvious, creating an environment where his authority is unquestioned simply because no one dares to challenge it. This type of fear is not achieved by physical force alone. While the ruler may use power to demonstrate his might, it is a manipulation perception that truly ensures his dominance. Fear is seated in the minds of his enemies long before any direct action is taken. It grows in their hearts as they anticipate his every move, always wondering when the punishment will come, always second-guessing their actions. The ruler need not make threats. His mere presence is enough to instill a deep unease, an awareness that he is watching, always waiting, always ready to strike when least expected. The greatest masters of fear are those who wield it without ever needing to raise a finger. They control the game by ensuring that the very thought of crossing them is more painful than submission. Fear does not have to be expressed through violence or oppression. It can simply exist in the mind of the enemy, an ever-present weight that influences their choices and actions. When one is feared, the battle is already won, for no one dares to challenge a force they cannot predict, a presence they cannot fully understand. What makes this fear so effective is that it is not tied to any one individual action. It is not born of specific punishment or retaliation, but rather the certainty that it will come in time. A ruler who controls fear creates an atmosphere where everyone knows the consequences of disobedience, even if those consequences have not yet been revealed. Fear becomes an invisible chain that binds all to the ruler's will. It is not the immediate threat of violence that makes fear such a potent weapon, but the long-term assurance that, at some point, the ruler will act. The anticipation of punishment is often more paralyzing than the punishment itself. And this is where true power lies. To instill fear is to control not by force, but by shaping the behavior of others through the ever-present knowledge that defiance will lead to inevitable consequences. The ruler who is feared is not concerned with being loved or admired. Such things are fleeting and unreliable. What matters is that when the time comes to act, others will comply, not because they've been won over by kindness, but because they know the price of rebellion is too high to pay. In this, the ruler becomes unassailable, his power absolute, because no one dares to challenge a force that can strike without warning, without mercy. In the world of power, to be compassionate is not a virtue. It is a weapon to be wielded with great care. The ruler who understands the true nature of promises and the careful manipulation of others' expectations is a force that cannot be easily defeated. When one shows kindness, it is never out of sense of obligation, but as a means to an end. Compassion is not for the weak. It is a strategic tool that can ensnare others in a web of dependency. The key to wielding it effectively is to understand that a promise made today may very well be the instrument of control tomorrow. The art of making promises and breaking them is an art of controlling perception. A ruler who extends a hand of kindness does so not because of any moral duty, but because it positions him for future leverage. The promise, once made, becomes a tool, an illusion of trust that can be dissolved when it no longer serves its purpose. By keeping others reliant on compassion shown to them, the ruler positions himself as indispensable. The moment of kindness is always followed by the moment of betrayal, for it is in the broken promise that the true strength of power lies. When others believe they have received mercy, they are left vulnerable, their expectations raised, their dependence secured. A ruler who gives his word does, so with the understanding that it is never permanent. He knows that a promise, once made, creates an expectation that can be exploited. The promise, like a rope, ties others to him, and at the moment of greatest dependence, he has the power to cut it. This is not cruelty. It is a necessary tool of manipulation. Those who expect nothing from a ruler are the ones most easily controlled. When kindness is shown, it must be temporary, always designed to lure others into a position where they must seek more, and in doing so, they become more reliant, more susceptible to the ruler's next move. A promise broken is a necessity because it serves to remind others of the ruler's true power. By breaking the word once given, the ruler reasserts his dominance and reminds others that his compassion is not to be taken for granted. He holds the power to take away what is given, and in this, he retains control. The ruler who keeps his word too often is one who exposes his weakness. The ruler who keeps his word only when it suits his strategy, however, remains a shadow figure, elusive and untouchable. The promise given is not a bond of trust, but a tool of manipulation. By allowing others to believe in his sincerity, the ruler creates a dynamic where they must continually seek more, hoping to have their needs met. However, at any moment, the ruler can withdraw his support, breaking his promise, and in doing so, reinforces his power. This creates a sense of unease in others, a recognition that their dependence on him can be taken away in an instant. It is not kindness that binds them to the ruler, but the ever-present fear that their need for mercy will be denied. To wield compassion effectively is to know when to give and when to take away. The ruler must never allow the promise to be an end in itself. It must always be the beginning of a larger plan, a design to manipulate and control. The art of making promises and breaking them lies in the ruler's ability to control the expectations of others while maintaining the power to disrupt those expectations at will. The ruler who understands this principle will never be vulnerable, for he has learned the most powerful lesson of all. Kindness is a tool of control, not an end in itself. True power is not found in one's own abilities alone, but in the ability to shape the will of others to serve one's ends. The ruler who understands this truth is never alone in his machinations. He surrounds himself with those who will either do his bidding or fail to act against him. To gain influence is to build dependencies, to create a system where others must rely on you and in turn become unwitting instruments of your will. The strongest ruler is not the one who stands at the top alone, but the one who knows how to weave a web of reliance so intricate that it ensnares all who would threaten him. The power of dependency lies in its subtlety. A ruler who establishes a network of allies and subordinates will ensure their loyalty, not through promise of affection or idealistic partnership, but by making them dependent on his favor. When others rely on you for their success, they become tied to your actions, and their own choices are bound by the force of your decisions. This dependency ensures that they will work tirelessly for you, for the simple reason that they have no other choice but to do so. The more they depend on you, the more they are compelled to protect you, defend you, and preserve your interests, for without your support, they risk falling from the heights they have achieved with your assistance. This strategy is not about force, nor is it about direct control. It is about building a system of interdependencies where others cannot escape the influence you exert over them. The wise ruler understands that true loyalty does not come from the force of one's commands, but from the subtle ways in which people are made to rely on your power. Whether it is through providing wealth, protection, or status, the ruler who creates dependence in his subordinates ensures that their interests align with his own. These dependencies can be as subtle as providing knowledge or resources, but they are the invisible chains that bind the subordinate to the ruler's will. The creation of dependencies is not to be confused with generosity or goodwill. Generosity, if perceived as such, risks creating an image of weakness, where others believe they are entitled to your favor. True dependency comes from positioning others in such a way that they cannot thrive without your guidance or assistance. The ruler who creates dependency does so without fanfare, without the appearance of manipulation. For true power lies in making others believe they are acting of their own volition. It is only by maintaining the illusion of mutual benefit that the ruler can truly control the actions of others without ever appearing to dominate them. This strategy extends beyond the direct subordinates to those in the outer circles of influence. The ruler who understands the value of creating dependencies will ensure that his influence stretches far and wide, touching all aspects of the system. No one is truly independent, and no one can succeed without the ruler's subtle involvement. This network of reliance creates an environment where the ruler's authority remains unchallenged, for anyone who would act against him finds themselves isolated, without the necessary support or resources to do so. To gain the loyalty of others, one must never offer them true independence. Instead, one must offer them just enough to make them believe they have power, while ensuring they remain dependent on the ruler for their continued success. This ensures that those around the ruler are never a threat, for they are too deeply entwined in the web of influence to act against it. The ruler's power grows not from the strength of his individual actions, but from the ability to shape the actions of those around him, making them work toward his goals, even when they believe they are serving their own interests. In this way, the ruler becomes not just a leader of his followers, but the architect of a world in which all paths lead to him. In the world of power, true strength is not about displaying might, but about weaving a web of influence so intricate that it cannot be escaped. The ruler who understands these principles, who knows how to remain hidden, how to instill fear without showing it, how to manipulate dependencies, becomes a master of his own fate. The most dangerous individual is the one who does not need to assert dominance, but who can command respect and shape the actions of others without ever revealing the depths of his power. Through silence, subtlety, and calculated compassion, the ruler maintains control, ensuring that his influence flows without interruption, his plans unfolding without resistance. Power, in its highest form, is not a loud declaration, but a quiet, unwavering force that moves through the world unseen, yet impossible to ignore.